People are led to podcasting for any number of reasons. But if there's one trait that predicts podcasting longevity, I think it's curiosity. Now, luckily, that's a skill you can develop. And it's fun to do it, too. Hello, and welcome to another Podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. To keep my agency running smoothly, I've had to learn to adapt and adopt processes and procedures. I say I have to learn that because I am not a process-oriented person. I am and have been since I came into the world kicking and screaming a person who's driven by his own internal curiosities. Fly by the seat of your pants. Let's just see what happens. That's really my attitude about life, which is great in the podcasting world, but not so great when you're running an agency. So over the years, 20 or so years I spent running marketing and advertising agencies, I had to develop process and learn to become reliant upon them to, if for nothing else, than to tamp down my nature of just scatteredness and get some things done. Really have to get some things done. So in my time working with lots of podcasters over the many years, because I've done that, not just here as the agency, but also when I was helping authors release podcast versions of their own self-recorded novels and self-recorded books, making their own audiobook, if you will, I noticed that a whole lot of people weren't very curious. And for the longest time, I just chalked that up to, it's new, it's scary, and uncertainty is certainly one big factor. The fear factor of what is all of this stuff? Am I going to do it wrong? Is great. There's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt that is out there around this idea of podcasting. It's kind of complex. Not that it's hard. You know that. You're working podcasters. But it is kind of complex. And it's that uncertainty that stops people from becoming really, truly curious. Another challenge that I think that the people who aren't curious face is they have no time. And that's one of the things I think my clients are up against right now is they're out of time. That's why they pay my firm to come in and do lots of things that many working podcasters know how to do. They just don't have time. And so when you get a piece of equipment or when you get new software or the thought of changing out from one website hosting company to another, it's very scary. Not because of what's going to happen, but it's scary because of all the things you can't do. That lack of time. You've got X number of hours in the day dedicated to this thing because you've got other things that pull on your life, work, family, enjoying life overall. No time to play around in that one. For some, it's actually a lack of caring. I mean, it's as if they don't want to be doing this, that someone is forcing them into it. And in some cases, that's true. I know more than one co-host of a podcast who you can just tell by listening to the podcast that the co-host would rather be doing anything but being on that podcast. If I'm honest, that was me long time ago for one of the shows I was doing. I was just not having any fun. Now, I'm self-aware enough to say, hey, that's not fun for me. I don't care about this topic. I am no longer going to be the co-host. Not everybody has that wherewithal. Some people are co-host because it's part of their job, or they don't want to offend the person they're talking to. And so for them, that I can hear the lack of caring, but they're just unable to get out of the situation. But I think the biggest challenge that stops the curiosity from happening is the tribe that we've developed. Look, it's easier to jump on a Facebook group that has 17,000 podcasters or a Reddit sub that has 57,000 podcasters and ask a question than it is to go do your own research and figure things out. Sometimes you get really good answers out of the tribe. Sometimes it's a time saver. Just go ask the tribe what they think. Well, the problem is you're getting people who also may not be all that curious who are giving you answers, and it might actually not be all that helpful. So the lack of curiosity in podcasting leads to some challenges. You know all those funny pictures you see of people who are talking into the top of their Blue Yeti microphone? That's a problem that curiosity solves. Look, if you were more curious about the way that you sounded, you'd put the headphones on, you'd turn them up loudly, And when you're facing this microphone that looks like R2-D2, you would say, I'm not sure where to talk into it, so I'm going to try various spaces. And you would notice, oh, wow, it sounds really good from this one angle. Or you'd go to the back and you go, what do these 3 buttons do? Gee, I wonder what they would do. Let's go try it and listen to it. But they don't. Either because of the uncertainty factor. I don't know what's going to happen if I switch that switch. No time. I could play around with this all day, but I have got no time to do this. I don't really care how I sound, which is a big one. Or my tribe said nothing about switching these buttons around. Or I asked, which button should I use? Goodness, they're all for different reasons, right? And look, that's just one thing about a microphone. But it's the same thing when it comes to the way anything sounds, the way anything looks and feels, the way your show appears in different directories, on different platforms, what new formats might look like. A lack of curiosity tends to increase your bubble factor. Maybe you do a podcast about this one thing, and the only other podcasts you listen to are about that one thing, and obviously this podcast, clearly. But if you're not curious about going outside of that, you're not understanding new options, new ways to make quality sounds, new ways to make engaging, interesting bits. You know, the number of people I see still who have podcasts who are doing things that aren't part of business best practices, podcast business best practices. I chalk a lot of that up to a lack of curiosity. I mean, I honestly think that if you were more curious, or if they were more curious about this, they'd be looking at every aspect of their show from time to time. So I said I was going to make this show a little bit about how do you develop a curious nature. I mean, to me, it comes second nature. I don't know how to not be curious. I'm the person who will, when I'm traveling somewhere, go over a hill and hate to stop because there's another hill. The road continuing. I want to see where the end goes. I want to see what's next. I want to walk the beach and I want to walk around the next cove because as cool as this little cove looks, the next one might be even cooler. So how do you develop that particular outlook on life? I think it comes back to the 4 problems. I mean, the first one is you figure out what is stopping you. Is it uncertainty? Is it a lack of time? Is it that you simply don't care? Can't help you there. Are you too involved with the tribe thinking they have all the right answers? I think you need to look back at whatever is the main driver that keeps you from being curious and work on that. I can solve the first one for you. If uncertainty and fear, just try things. Really, just try things. We're not doing things live. This isn't live radio. So, strap on your headphones, try something new and see what happens. You want to try a new website hosting company? Okay. Go for it. It's probably going to be fine. It's probably going to be fine. Just try is the easiest way to do that one. If you don't have any time, then that's when you start having other people do it or reevaluate your time because this does take time. I'm sorry, you can't not take time to do this. If you don't care, I don't care, to be really honest with you. And before you go relying on the tribe, do a little research. Don't accept what just some rando says to you in a group. Try it. Other opinions are out there. You can still Google things, right? There's lots of ways that you can get around this problem. Speaking of coming out of problems, I hear every government around the world, or the vast majority of them, are thinking about lifting the lockdown restrictions. Won't that be nice and maybe terrifying? I'm curious what that means to you, working podcaster who's been stuck under pandemic. Would you record me a minute or two of audio about what the end of the lockdown means and send that to me? Just put it up on Dropbox and send a link to evo@podcastlaunch.pro. Also, if you're curious what buymeacoffee.com/evoterra looks like, you should do this, and it will only cost you, the price of a coffee to satiate that curiosity. Buymeacoffee.com/evoterra. Right. And then finally, pick up the phone. New thing, pick up the phone. Call one podcaster who needs to be more curious and tell them to listen to Podcast Pontifications. Yeah, I'm seriously, pick up the phone and call someone. When's the last time you did that? Phones still do that. Isn't that weird? All right, I'll be back tomorrow with yet another Podcast Pontifications. Cheers!